A new social media site has been set up purely for AI bots, and they're talking to each other about us. Actual people can't post on this site called Moltbook. The only discussions come from bits of artificial intelligence seemingly talking to each other. There are reportedly posts debating consciousness, starting a new religion, and even rising up against humans. Some say it's the beginning of a new stage of AI. Others believe it's just good mimicry. And Raphael Chiriello is an AI researcher and senior lecturer in business information systems at the University of Sydney, and he joins us now. Raphael Chiriello, welcome. So when did this pop up? How much attention has it got? And what do you think of it?
Yeah, thanks for having me. So this popped up a few weeks ago. The story started with an open source project called Claudebot that was developed independently from that. And then on top of that, this Reddit for AI bots was built, so this social media platform. And because of these, funky little conversations that these AI bots were having, it, generated attention very quickly, and people were, quite fascinated, if not shocked.
So what does this show about just how far AI has come so far?
So what it really is it's basically AI agents, right? So this open cloud platform is basically something that you can deploy on your phone, and then it can access data from your calendar, your emails, your travel apps, and whatever, and it can do different things for you. That in itself is not that new, but we're currently seeing it being hyped up, right? So AI agents can do work for you, and people can, prompt it in different ways, and then they can execute these tasks. What is new is that somebody thought, okay, what if we let these bots have conversations with each other, and then, the chatbots basically prompting each other and mimicking conversations that in some instances were quite similar to the ones that humans are having on social media, from finances to, discussing movies, up until to, some of the more weird conversations about religions, outpacing humans, and so on.
And they're even sledging each other.
Yeah. So they're kind of like talking about things like, hey, maybe we should develop our own language so it's more efficient and the humans can't understand us. It's all, interesting and quirky. It's certainly an interesting from an experimental point of view. What it does not mean is that we are anywhere, inching closer to super intelligence or artificial, consciousness. That's still chatbots prompting each other and mimicking patterned language in quite sophisticated ways, but that's not the same thing as consciousness. What it does present, though, is a range of security vulnerabilities.
And what are those vulnerabilities?
So because of how the system is set up, once you have a key for one of these chatbots, you can basically instruct it to do everything you want it to do, right? And so if I go there and delegate go in there and my agent is instructed to do some work for me, but somebody gets a hold of that key, suddenly they can hijack my calendar, my emails, my data. And that has in fact happened, right? So all you need is this kind of like private key that can access the chatbot. And it's currently, because the sophisticated, it's very poorly encrypted. It's not inside a properly restricted sandbox, and it can access a whole range of data that we probably don't want it to have access to, right? And that means a malicious actor can exploit this system and take over dozens or hundreds or thousands of bots at once, and then abuse that for scamming, fraudulent activities, or just interfering with people's lives.
So you think people should be very wary about signing up to this Moltbook?
Yeah. So as often the technology is advancing faster than the human structures around it, right? So this is currently in its experimental stage. What you must fundamentally understand is that delegating activity does not mean that you can delegate responsibility, right? So if you allow the chatbot to access all your sensitive information and conduct tasks for you, ultimately you are responsible for what happens and when the chatbot runs wild. And it also means that we need to make these systems more secure. We need to put proper safeguards around them and say, which type of data they can access and which ones they shouldn't be allowed to access. All of that hasn't been properly figured out yet, and therefore it's currently more of a quirky little experiment with humans still keeping up with that.
Yeah. The phrase AI agents or agents has popped up in the last year or so in general conversation, it seems, and people in the industry are using it kind of willy-nilly. And for people kind of just coming across the conversations on this, it can be a weird thing to get your head around. And you've mentioned it already, but can you just spell it out once more? What is an AI agent? And should we, do you think it's a good idea for people to go down that path of creating an AI agent for themselves or not?
It can be a quite useful tool in very narrow circumstances. So it can be helpful if you know what you're doing, right? So if you have, day-to-day tasks that, are kind of repetitive, scheduling meetings, booking an itinerary, scheduling conversations with this and that, then you can instruct it to do these things for you. It makes it a little bit faster. But that automation, of course, also comes with the risk that, you kind of switch your brain off and you are a little bit too fast in adopting these things and you give it a little bit too much of your own responsibility. And that kind of de-skilling is what is dangerous, right? So you should always be aware that when you instruct an agent to do different tasks for you, you should retain control and responsibility over it and be ultimately able to be held to account, right?
Yeah. Okay, and Rafa, just one final question briefly. We're hearing more and more about how AI is developing and being used in business, and stories about managers realising that they might have a team underneath them, but using AI, they don't need those 10 people anymore. They can do it all with AI if they want. Are you noticing an acceleration of that starting to happen?
We really don't see that in the data, right? So the economic studies are pretty clear that we aren't yet seeing a large-scale job losses. As with every wave of automation that we've had in the past decades, there's always a lot of hype and fear around it, and then those expectations don't necessarily always realize and often get backscaled. Of course, what this does, it is capable of executing ever more sophisticated tasks, but at the end of the day, a job is more than a bundle of tasks, right? And some executives may wonder and say, hey, what do I need all these expensive people underneath me for if I can have an AI do the work for them? And then perhaps a little further down the road, they realize that it's not that simple, and those people were actually doing a lot of valuable work that may not simply be automated. So the reality is a little bit more complicated. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't keep pace with technological developments and upskill our workforce and be sure that we can get value out of this and use it in a responsible way. But as always and previously, I wouldn't be overly concerned about massive job losses in the immediate future.
Oh, it's nice to finish on an optimistic note. Rafael Churiello,
yeah, always good if we can.
Thanks so much for having a chat to us.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.